So this is how to play the Lightning Spear Sorcerer, and we got this question on our previous video when I did a build guide of what you need and how you put this build together. I'll have a link to that video in the description down below, but they posed this question and they just wanted to see, you know, how do you play this build if you don't have all the gear for it and this and that. I have a good amount of the things that you need for it. Like I have Fractured, I have Rashas, I have esus, and I have Tibaults. So I'm going to do this with none of those on, so we'll literally take all 4 of those off for now and favorite them so I don't torch anything, and kind of show and go over why you should or should not play this until you get at least one of these, and that would be Fractured Winterglass. We'll go over that in just a second. But basically, the way that this build works, it's very simple. When you're in combat or you're out fighting things, all you're using is Lightning Spear to do damage. The rest of your stuff is either a conduit for you to get faster cooldown on your Lightning Spear, which, again, as we go through each one of the uniques, I'll show that. There's resource generation, and there's crit chance, and then there's just bonus damage. So we're going to go over all of that right now. The first item I would recommend getting before trying to do this build would be Fractured Winterglass. Yeah, and this comes from Lord Zir. So you can actually kill him super easily with just a bunch of random legendaries that you loot in World Tier 4 or even Sacreds from World Tier 3. I did it as a Firewall Sorcerer, and it was actually very simple. But what this ends up doing, so I'll show the full kit and then I'll kind of explain what Winterglass does, is like when I do this, I've got a 16-second cooldown. I think it's supposed to be about 20 for normal without a bunch of the cooldown reduction and stuff that I have. But once you cast your Lightning Spear, because of the enchant or the legendary aspect that's on your weapon, you cast a bunch of Lightning Spears out, and they all kind of like shatter, they fracture out, and they keep spiking. Every time they crit, they explode and hit everything around them for like 1.5 billion damage. It's insane. So that's your main thing. Frozen Orb is completely useless right now. This is just being cast for funsies. It does nothing because I don't have Fractured Winterglass yet. That mount was pretty cool. Oh, we're gonna die. We'll act like we didn't just die there. So for the skills, teleport is just how you move around and everything. We already talked about that in my build guide. These 2 abilities here, notice that everything that we have on our bar gives us unstoppable, except for your ult. Your ult is just a steroid, but these are to be used defensively for the most part until you get a Tibaults, and we'll explain Tibaults in a second. So let's do Fractured Winterglass. So the cooldown on this, like we said just a little bit ago, is 16 seconds. Well, I put Fractured Winterglass on, and that cooldown is still 16 seconds. But if I sit here and spam Frozen Orb, I'm going to close this so you can see resource because this is very resource dependent. If I spam Frozen Orb, Lightning Spear cools down very quickly because what Fractured does is a couple of the stat lines down. Every time Frozen Orb explodes, no matter what you're using to explode it, it will reduce the cooldown of your Lightning Spear by X amount, depending on how high of a roll you got. On my legendary aspect on my ring, I have Frozen Orbit, which makes your frozen orbs explode multiple times, and that triggers this multiple times. So I can, in theory, I can throw out a Lightning Spear, spam a bunch of frozen orbs just at my toes, and look at that. So that cooldown comes down a lot sooner than 16 seconds, and that consumes a lot of mana. So what do you do with that? With just a Fractured Winterglass and then any other items that you desire, it doesn't matter what they are, you can just have some random legendary aspects like Conceited and stuff like that, or defensive things in your boots and pants, or whatever you want. But with just Winterglass, your main way to get some resource back is going to be to use your Ice Armor because it gives you some mana regen. But that's kind of your only way to get mana back with this build with just a Winterglass, which is fine. You can use a Resource Potion. In fact, I have a bunch sitting on me right now. If you use a Resource Potion, you can actually spam this a lot more and then try to roll some mana per second on your, I think your helm and your chest would be really nice for some mana per second, but that's going to blow the cooldown away like this. So I can just sit here and spam and spam and spam, and then bam, there's another Lightning Spear. I do this again, and it regenerates so fast when you're doing it like this, and I look like an Archon from StarCraft. So that's Fractured Winterglass, and that's why that's the most important item for this whole build. The next 2, actually, you get both of them from Varshan, which is Esus and Rasha's Ring. Now, everybody knows that Rasha's Ring is super important, so I'm going to put that one on. This one's, I've rolled a few things on it. It's super cool. Rasha's Ring just gives you more damage based on all the elements that you do. We already have our enchant for Firebolt, so we're doing lightning damage, we're doing cold damage, and we're doing fire damage because of how everything is set up and how this build works. So you're always at a permanent 3 stack on Rasha's. That's cool. Esus or esus, or whatever everybody calls it, is a huge deal because of how much this gives you in your critical strike chance. What people don't realize, and I learned this from my last video's comment section, what people don't realize is whenever you dodge and you increase your movement speed with this by 125%, look at the very bottom, because I'm trying to point at it on my screen like you can see what I see. Look at the very bottom where it says current bonus, it's 7% to your critical strike chance or whatever, and it's based on your movement speed. Well, whenever I dodge, that almost entirely maxes out at 40% more on top of whatever my current is. So when you're looking at your crit chance, my crit chance is pretty bad, I think, at 37.4. If I dodge, I'm capped at 70 immediately. So it amplifies this build. It sends it through the moon, and that's super important because your splintering energy does this stuff that does a ton more damage based on your critical strike damage and your critical strike chance. That's where it all comes into play. So immediately after Fractured Winterglass, the next thing you should go for is Esu's Boots. And you should make sure you're just using your dodge roll or evade or whatever that's called, dodge roll, like this is Zelda. But use your evade. That's going to give you just a crazy amount of crit strike chance, and you're going to see so many more fireworks going on your screen. This is how you speed run things, is just make sure you're using your evade on cooldown. Now, esus and Tal Rashas, both coming from Varshan, is hilarious because, again, you can kill Varshan almost naked with a Firewall Sorcerer if you just make sure you dodge all of his stuff. You should be able to get all 3 of these items so far without any problems at all. You should absolutely be able to do those, like I said, no problems. Tibault's Will, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult because you have to be able to solo Duriel or have somebody that can help you with it. And Duriel is not difficult, but he's not exactly easy. You need a decent build to do at least the initial Duriel. But once you get these, this solves all of your resource management in one single piece right here. Every little bit of resource issue that this build has goes away entirely. Because now, with Tibault's on and everything else, if I sit here and I use this and I just spam cast, I'm sorry, we still have a resource potion on that I can't take off. Damn it. Okay, so this isn't going to be a super great example because I still have that potion on currently. Unless I try relogging and see if that gets rid of my buff, which it did. Okay, awesome. So yeah, anyway, so if I'm sitting here and I'm using my thing and I'm trying to recharge that cooldown, my resource is going to hell. But now, whenever I use Ice Armor, because of Snow Veiled on my helm, Ice Armor now gives me that mana regen, and I'm just regenerating mana like there's no tomorrow. And this is without a resource potion. And now that falls off, and I can deplete my mana again. And remember, I still have a pretty good amount of mana per second on a couple of pieces of gear. So aim for that too. That's really easy to get. You can just do it at the Occultist if you need to. But all of your other abilities, so let's say my Ice Armor's on cooldown, I can still teleport, bam, there's a full bar of energy, and then that runs out or whatever, and now I still have Flame Shield. I was gonna call it Fire Armor. And again, full bar of energy, and by the time that's back, I can just Ice Armor again. And just keep spamming. Look, teleport's already off cooldown, and I'm not even done with Ice Armor yet, so now I can go, wait for it, bam, I'm back to teleport, just blowing a bunch away, just keep going and going and going. And by the time I run out again, Ice Armor's back, so I can just keep going back and forth between these two, or I can use that. But yeah, essentially that's it. You do this and you end up birthing so many more lightning spears because of Fractured Winterglass. It's honestly insane. This build is so fast at farming. It's so fast that it actually makes certain maps like tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons are almost boring. Here, I'll show you what that looks like real quick so you can get an idea. Now that I've kind of explained what to do, we will, that's embarrassing. What about this one? Okay, yeah. Now that I've kind of explained what to do, we'll talk about that while I'm in here and show you it in application. Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons are relatively fast. The only thing that this build slows down on is on bosses. It's not the world's greatest boss killers. In fact, bosses can be kind of frustrating. So if you can absolutely clap cheeks in a dungeon like this, like if I run around and just do this, this is a tier 100 and we can just like speed run Giga Chad every single thing in this entire place. And I'm just running around, like I'll click a couple of times, I'll move, and then I'll throw a couple of frozen orbs, like throw a frozen orb, move, throw a frozen orb, move. And I'm just doing that to maintain the cooldown reduction on my lightning spear. But once you get to a certain point, like look at this. I'll be able to just like kind of telly through, lightning spear, telly, dodge for the crit chance. I'll use my ultimate because we want that attack speed so we can get more of our frozen orbs out. That reduces our cooldown even further. but you kind of get the idea of how fast this can be. And it looks like there's nothing in this dungeon because of how strong this build is once you get everything ramped up and you're just running around. It truly is a force to be reckoned with. I think it's the fastest speed farmer I've ever used. There could be something else out there that's a little bit better than this. I don't know. This is legitimately, it's the fastest thing that I've ever held. So you'll have to let me know if this helped. I don't think this is gonna be one of the videos that like takes off a ton. This was just based on a question that I had from the previous video. I just wanted to do this to kind of help out and help people understand how to play this build so they're not so scared to try it, because it really is fun. But you'll have to let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. On your way down there, like and subscribe. They're both free and they really help out the channel here. If you want, you can hang out with us in Discord. I try to get in there and jump in with like the whole community. We had, I think, 10 or 15 people in there a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. But it's a good place to shoot the shit. If you have stuff that you want to trade, we've got a trade room in there. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. So look for links to all of that in the description down below. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you're bored, YouTube is going to recommend this next one for you. Happy grinding, travelers, and we'll see you in Sanctuary.